Boo bitches! Welcome to episode 7 of Rivers Ramblings. Hopefully, my reading is getting a little bit better, so I may be able to go back to C3. I just hate to do that when I can't read very well because I don't, it's more of a rambling right now. So I'm still calling this a Rivers Rambling. Ren is obviously still not available. It's just me again today. I'll be rambling alone. But I want to talk about retrogrades. And it's something that's fascinated me, and I never really knew exactly what it was, other than we see those memes, oh, we're going into Mercury retrograde, that kind of thing. But first, before I get into retrogrades, Greg did come through about the strawberry question that I had. And he says that blackberries are actually a really good way to explain my question. He said that each of the round balls that make up a strawberry or a raspberry even is a fruit by itself. Inside each one of those is a seed, and the seeds on the outside of the strawberries, therefore, are the same way. There's the fruit with a seed inside. And it's just, they look different from a blackberry or a raspberry, but they're both aggregate fruits. So thank you very much, Greg, for answering my question. Also, I decided to make a special cocktail. I'm feeling a little bit better. So, you guys, they moved me out of my big old clunky boot that my husband said made me look like a transformer into a brace. So I am making progress slowly but surely. But anyway, I felt like a cocktail today. So I have called this one Bewitching Bubbles. You take about 1.5 ounces of vodka, some cream de cassis, which is kind of gives it that deep, mysterious hue, kind of like our souls, and some fresh lemon juice to add a zesty kick, maybe about a half an ounce of that. Some simple syrup, more or less, depending on your taste. You can do about a half an ounce of that. Depends, it balances out your salty demeanor, so to speak, at least mine. I know I'm salty. So, and then you top it off with sparkling wine or champagne. And the bubbles, to me, are the closest thing to magic that there is in the cocktail world. So, and then of course, edible glitter is a good thing. That gives you that little extra sparkle. And you can garnish it with a strawberry or a blackberry or whatever fruit that you might want to, and serve it in a chilled glass, of course, because we know how to roll. And it's pretty tasty. I like it. And but then again, I am a very big bubbly fan, but it's good. I like it. So bear with me as I enjoy my cocktail. You all go make a cocktail too if you haven't already. Okay, so what exactly is a retrograde anyway? So in astrology, a retrograde is when a planet appears to move backward in the sky from our point of view here on Earth. So when Earth overtakes a slower moving outer planet, an orbit or inner planet, because I guess some of them are inner, but anyway, the planet appears to move westward instead of eastward. So here, okay, let's explain. Normally, planets move eastward relative to the background of the stars from our perspective on Earth. However, because Earth and other planets orbit at different speeds, there are times when Earth overtakes or is overtaken by another planet in orbit. It's when this happens that, from our point of view here on Earth, the planet temporarily appears to slow down, pause, or even move in reverse, backwards, westward, against that backdrop of the stars. So eventually it slows again, stops once more, and then resumes the normal eastward course. So you kind of think of it like passing a slower car on the highway. As you speed past it, the other car briefly appears to move backward relative to your viewpoint. And that's the same thing as what we're seeing. Even though both are still moving forward, they appear to be going backwards compared to us, or stand still compared to us. So that's actually kind of cool. So they're not actually reversing direction. It's just an optical illusion due to the orbits. But astronomically, they are basically cosmic chaos when they're activated. So that is what I wanted to talk about. It's kind of like the universe hitting a rewind, but with all the glitchy buffering of a bad Wi-Fi signal. So here comes the retrograde. So 2025 is actually a potent year for some major retrogrades. Every major planet all the way through is in retrograde at some point in 2025. Now, some of those have already passed because we're already at the end of April. But it's this year we actually had every single planet go into retrograde or will go into retrograde at some point. Retrogrades are often seen as cosmic reversals that strip away things or stir up things in our lives. I guess energy would be things is not a very astute word, so energies. But instead of fearing these phases, witches can actually embrace them as opportunities to review, reflect, and realign, depending on what type of retrograde it is. A planet in retrograde is believed to influence the areas of life that it governs. So it often signals a time of reflection or reassessment. It's a term for like, why is everything suddenly so fucked? That's basically what a retrograde is. It's the cosmic dumpster fires that we go through. So let's look a little bit deeper into these and see what's coming in 2025. So Mercury, let's go in order from closest to the sun to the farthest from the sun. Mercury, and that's the one that we always hear about, is we've already passed one of those. It goes into retrograde 3 times this year. It was March 15th, 2025 to April 7th, and that one's passed. The next one is July 18th through August 11th, and that's when it will be in Leo. And then again, November 9th through November 29th, it'll be in Sagittarius to Scorpio. And I'll explain what those mean as well. Venus retrograde, that's already happened as well. It happened March 1st through April 12th. Mars retrogrades, we had one in the very beginning of this year. It was actually started in December of last year and went through February 23rd, 2025. So it's also passed. Jupiter has 2 retrogrades this year. One is passed. It was January through February 4th. And the next one is coming up November 11th, which is kind of cool, and 11/11 happening to March 20th, 2026, and at which time it will be in Cancer. Saturn retrograde is July 13th through November 27th. It'll be in Aries to Pisces. Uranus, it has 3 retrogrades in 2025. We've already had one passed. It ended on January 30th. The next one is September 6th through November 7th in Gemini, and then November 7th through February 3rd of 2026 in Taurus. Neptune is July 4th through December 10th in Aries to Pisces. And Pluto is May 4th through October 13th in Aquarius, which is kind of cool. It's very close to Beltane, but it won't really take a place until after Beltane. Beltane will be May 1st. So a couple days after Beltane, Pluto will go into retrograde in Aquarius. So let's explore each retrograde. So Mercury is also known as the drama queen of retrogrades. This is the one that gets all the buzz, and actually there's a good reason for that. Mercury retrograde is associated with communication, technology, and travel mishaps. So keywords that might be associated with Mercury retrograde might be tech glitches, travel snafus, lost emails, exes crawling out of the woodwork like it's a full moon at a werewolf convention. It's basically a time of communication chaos is what it is. It often is blamed for misunderstandings, delays, and electronic glitches. So what are some witchy tips for Mercury retrograde? Double check everything. Double check your spells. Double check texts that are going out, emails. Make sure your travel plans are 100%, don't just wing it. Everything that could go wrong will go wrong during Mercury retrograde. So be sure you're on it. I mean, think about it. If you use tech to write your spells, auto-correcting could end up with changing manifestation to infestation, which would be cataclysmic. We just don't want that to happen. So this is the time to reflect, review, revisit, but not launch anything new. So you might experience misunderstandings and slip ups. It's easy to say the wrong thing or to misinterpret what someone else has said. Divination things might get jumbled, so be very careful when you're trying to interpret what you're reading through divination or telepathy if you have that kind of skill. And emails and texts, of course, you know how without that, the sound of voice, it's already hard to get what they're trying to say. But during Mercury retrograde, it's even worse. Internet might go out. You might lose packages that you've ordered. The GPS could go haywire. Speaking of, I don't think we're in Mercury retrograde right now, but my GPS has been having a mind of its own lately. Or you could end up with travel delays. Those are all very common. They are notorious, these periods of time, for people saying, "Oh, it was Mercury retrograde." So just be aware. Back up important files and have plan Bs in place for travel and that kind of thing. Don't just assume, "Oh, I've already done it." Email it to yourself, have your confirmation number, take a screenshot, all of that stuff. So Mercury retrograde is like that toxic ex that shows up uninvited, messes with your texts, emails, travel plans, and then blames you for the miscommunication. So who doesn't love a good Mercury retrograde? Because losing your keys, your phone, and your patience all at the same time, it builds character, right? Besides, who doesn't love having those toxic exes pop up like bad pennies? Sure. Okay, Venus, aka love gets weird. It's linked to love and relationships. This period may prompt reevaluation of personal connections and financial matters. Keywords might be relationship turbulence, beauty blunders, money mix-ups. None of that sounds very good. Witch tip: not the time for drastic haircuts or declaring undying love to someone. It's actually more of like a dig through your old love letters and question your entire romantic history type of energy. Venus retrograde asks, is that relationship a red flag or is it just a very festive shade of pink? Spoiler alert, it's probably red during this time. If you get the urge to drastically change something like your hair, like I said, or text your ex, you're gonna be one of those exes coming out of the woodworks. Put those scissors down, put away that phone, don't do it. And this is also not the time for a makeover or any kind of dramatic relationship move. It's not the time to decide that. It's a time to pause, reflect, and reconsider everything. Mars, aka do not engage. It's tied to energy and ambition. It can lead to frustration or a need to reconsider one's goals and actions. The keywords for Mars retrograde might be energy drain, anger towards inward passive aggressive nonsense. It's just, yeah, you should avoid fights unless it's a showdown that ends in some kind of existential dread. Use this time to assess what's really worth your fire. So you're going to want to fight. That's just no doubt about it. So be careful to evaluate what it is that you're willing to put that energy into. It makes everyone's vibe go from Aries level confident to Capricorn level cranky. Suddenly we're arguing about things that we hadn't even thought about. We didn't even care about last week. And yet now it's this major argument. Channel your energy into something productive, like brewing tea instead of drama, or hexing, but hexing responsibly. No off the cuff hexes. Mars retrograde is like trying to run in a dream. It's frustrating and exhausting. Jupiter. Jupiter retrograde, aka existential crisis, anyone? This retrograde is about growth and expansion pauses. This is an opportunity to revisit and refine your life structure and your philosophies. So Keywords might be philosophy, growth, spirituality, ethics. I always hate when they throw the word growth out there because growth, as we all know, is so painful. A witchy tip might be, this is a great time for shadow work. Do some spiritual studies, realign those goals. This great time for journaling for sure. Get out one of those beautiful journals you've got stacked up. It is not a great time for gambling or overindulgence unless you're cool with a lot of regret. Jupiter retrograde is that philosophical friend that says, but like, why are you even here? Thanks, Jupiter. As I said, it's perfect for shadow work. It's totally okay to question your life choices, and that's a good thing. It does lead to growth, which, as I said before, can be painful. Just don't let it ruin your day. Don't let these retrogrades take over your existence. Jupiter retrograde is when your existential crisis hits harder than that dry martini that you ordered to try to avoid your existential crisis. So revisit big ideas, refine your path before diving forward. Saturn retrograde, also known as karmic boot camp or the cosmic principles office. Oh, I remember those days. Saturn, if it had a motto, if it doesn't challenge you, I'm not doing my job. That tells you what Saturn's retrograde is going to be all about. This planet invented tough love. So Saturn teaches lessons in accountability, usually by making you repeat them until you're thoroughly annoyed or dead, one or the other. Keywords might be authority, boundaries, life lessons. Saturn's like that strict teacher that you actually end up thanking eventually. You just don't feel like thanking them while it's going on. So reevaluate your commitments. Are you walking talking your, what is it? Walking your walk, talking your talk, walking your talk. That's it. That's it. Are you walking your talk, or are you just cosplaying through your responsibilities? It is time to do this a cosmic audit of your life. Take this time to get your act together or face the consequences. Uranus, aka shock therapy. You know how I like to play D&D? I've talked about it before. Uranus retrograde is like chaotic neutral, but mostly chaotic. Uranus retrograde is the universe's way of saying, you're way too comfortable. Let's make things spicy. This is a great time for rebellion, but like, don't quit your job or anything like that. To go after some harebrained scheme. That might be something that you can do later, just not during Uranus retrograde. It's best to sleep on it and think things through. Keywords might be sudden changes, rebellion, and awakenings. If your routines feel like they're straightforward, this is your permission slip to try to break free from that. Don't just toss out everything. Channel that chaos into revolution, not destruction. This retrograde is like turning your life plans upside down, like tarot cards in a tornado. Just fun times. Expect the unexpected. Uranus retrograde is that plot twist that you didn't see coming. I feel like my whole life is a plot twist I didn't see coming. If I had to give advice about this retrograde, I would say embrace the chaos. Prepare to pivot gracefully when life throws you curveballs, because you're going to get some curveballs. Neptune retrograde, also known as illusion, disillusion, and too much tea. Neptune retrograde pulls off your rose-colored glasses and crushes them between its little feet and then gently whispers, "Told you so." The keywords might be illusions, dreams, spirituality. This is the perfect moment for dream magic and reality checks. Also, it's great if you enjoy melodramatically staring into your crystal ball and sighing deeply. This is the time to do that. As the fog lifts, and sometimes you won't see what you like. I mean, it's like the blinders come off. You know, we all love our rose covered colored glasses, and it's not so fun sometimes when those come off. But it is an excellent time for intuitive work, dream work, and facing truths that you hadn't wanted to face before. Basically, Neptune retrograde shatters illusions like your cat knocks shit off of your altar and shatters it unexpectedly. Well, actually, the cat's not too unexpected, but dramatically for sure. As the veil lifts, pay attention to reality checks and intuition hits. It is a time where you're going to see things like they are, which may or may not be fun. And lastly, Pluto, aka underworld excavation time or deep transformation. Pluto retrograde digs deep. Think goth poetry meets spiritual therapy, equal parts profound and pretentious. Keywords might be power, transformation, and shadow work. Think less death and destruction and more like the Phoenix moment where you're coming out of the flames. Deep dives, inner rebirths, ancestral healing. This is your goth core soul searching time. You know, search that soul, but it's going to be in goth cosplay while it does it. Pluto retrograde is Shadowwork's emu cousin, wearing eyeliner, burning incense, and bringing up trauma at the most inconvenient of times. It's a deep dive into your psyche. It's a universe saying, hey, let's have a therapy session. Time for shadow work, face inner truths bravely and boldly. Okay, so that's the basics of the different retrogrades, but what does it mean when those retrogrades fall in other astronomical signs? You know, like I had said earlier, something was going to be in Cancer. What does that mean? So I decided for 2025, let's look at what is going to happen in 2025 during these retrogrades. So Mercury, the next one coming up is July 18th through August 11th in Leo, and November 9th through 29th in Sagittarius, dipping into Scorpio. So the energy influences are, again, as I said, the communication issues, all mercurial things go mischievous and wonky. So in 2025, Mercury retrogrades ask us to slow down and rethink how we express ourselves. The midsummer retrograde in Leo brings dramatic creative energy to review as we speak from the heart, or are we speaking from our ego? You know, think about that. Review how Leo, because Leo is dramatic. You know, you all know how I feel about Leos. We've had that discussion before. And then the late fall retrograde is in adventurous Sagittarius. So, and then of course it dips slightly into secretive Scorpio right there at the end. But it sparks big ideas and truths to revisit, beliefs, travel plans, or research. Think before you speak. Laugh at your own mistakes. Really, that's really the best way to get through any retrograde, is to just say, it is what it is, and laugh it away. Double check your plans, read the fine print. Don't sign any major contracts because you might not be interpreting them correctly during Mercury retrograde. Mercury is kind of a trickster influence. Avoid big launches because Mercury would love to throw some sassy chaos at you. Like I said, don't sign any major contracts. You don't want to do anything that doesn't have to, if it has to be perfect, don't do it during Mercury retrograde, or go over it with someone, have a beta read or something. It is like a cosmic opposites day that visits 3 times a year. And remember, the retrograde ends, but the lessons stick around. So communicate with care, listen carefully, gather messages that Mercury delivers from the unseen, because there are consequences down the road for whatever's going on. Mercury retrograde is a time to edit your life script, revise plans, reconnect with old friends, not those exes though, and reflect rather than rush. Mercury loves bringing blast from the past encounters, like I said, but it isn't bad necessarily. It's more quirky, wonky. One way to put it is that it's all a big cosmic joke to Mercury, but the energy isn't evil, it's mischievous. Just like magic isn't good or bad, it's the user, and Mercury is not evil, but definitely tricky. The trick is to stay flexible and keep your sense of humor. So, okay, so 2025, what should we do during our two Mercury retrogrades? Well, there are some energy things that you can do. You can do spell work, rituals, focus on spells for clarity, protection, and completion. These are things that will definitely help you during this time. Do a communication uncrossing spell. So light a blue or yellow candle, which are Mercury's colors, to clear a misunderstanding or craft a talisman to keep your technology protected. I think that's a great idea. Technology protection spells are a must. Mercury retro is great for spells that revisit or finish what you started before and never really got around to. If you might enchant Wednesday, which is Mercury's day, with a simple ritual like anoint your throat chakra with lavender oil and speak intentions of clear communication. I like to actually do my chakra balancing, like my throat chakra. That's a great time to try to realign your throat chakra, get it back in balance, exit out that old and bring in the new. Avoid elaborate new projects or binding agreements in spell work. Don't bind yourself to a deity at this time. You might have a misunderstanding of what is expected from you or from what you are expecting from them and what's been agreed to. So work magic for closure, review, and insight instead. You might want to build an altar to Mercury to honor the trickster and invite smoother vibes. Might be a little bribe for him. Include symbols of communication and travel, quills or quill pens. I love quill pens. An old phone or keys, a tiny scroll or a notebook. Those are all perfect things. Mercury corresponds with the element air and the mind. So you could add feathers or a tarot card, like the magician might be a good one for your altar. Add plants like lavender or mint that correspond to Mercury. A little offering of chocolate or honey for sweetness in speech can't hurt, especially if you have to be giving a talk and you want to try to convince someone to do something. That's a great way, have some honey tea before, with intent, before you go and have that negotiation. So tending this altar daily, lighting that candle, perhaps burning a little bit of frankincense or lemongrass, which are Mercury herbs, for purification will help ground the erratic energy that's going on during that time. And it shows respect to the mercurial forces. There are some crystals and herbs that are associated with Mercury. So maybe choose crystals that support mental clarity, that protect against negativity. Fluorite would be good for focus and order. Labradorite for magical protection and seeing through illusions. That's huge. And black obsidian for grounding and shielding. You can carry a pouch with these stones. As for herbs, lavender is the superstar for Mercury retrograde. It brings calm, protection, and peace. And also consider lemongrass, like I said, because it's associated with Mercury and air, and it repels negativity and boosts clear thinking. So some practical things to think about to embrace this redoing spirit from the old. Review all your old diaries or your old spell books. Get out your old grimoire and see how far you've come. Reorganize your witchy supply cabinet or your witchy supply room, whatever it is that you have, your bookshelf, or your digital files. Yeah, declutter that witchy desktop and that witchy computer computer, what is the word? Files, the computer files that you've got. If a plan goes awry, react with humor instead of frustration. Mercury loves when you laugh. at the audacity of a mistrain or a typo in a text, those darn autocorrects. In fact, plan to leave early for appointments, build in extra time for tech troubles, and that way you aren't going to be thrown off when it does happen, because it will. And then lastly, reconnect. Mercury retrograde is an excellent time to reach out to old friends and loved ones. Send that message that says, hey, you just popped into my head, and blame it on Mercury for bringing folks back together again. It's a great icebreaker. So Jupiter, the Jupiter retrograde in 2025 is November 11th, 2025 to March 10th of 2026, and it will mostly be in Cancer. So the energetic influence, Jupiter is the planet of expansion, luck, wisdom, and long-term vision. It's like the cosmic guru and Santa Claus all rolled into one, encouraging growth and generosity. When Jupiter gets retrograde, which it usually does for about 4 months every year, its expansive energy turns inward. So instead of outward growth and new adventures, we get a period of philosophical reflection and spiritual integration. Think of it as a sabbatical for your soul. And for the tail end of 2025 into the 2026, the retrograde in Cancer brings about things like Cancer is the sign of home, family, and emotional roots. So that feeling comes into that particular retrograde. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, meaning it's a comfortable, strong placement. It likes to be there. This is a time for deep inner growth around themes of emotional security, ancestry, and nourishment. We'll be prompted to reflect on how we care for ourselves and others, how our family or childhood beliefs have shaped our worldview, and what abundance truly means to us on the heart level. Jupiter retrograde often brings delayed blessings or a need to revisit opportunities from the past. It's not usually as challenging as Mercury or Mars retrogrades. It's more subtle, like a gentle slowing down of external luck so that you can cultivate some inner wisdom and gratitude. As one witch put it, spiritually, the retrograde Jupiter asks us to look inside, not by acquiring more, but by perfecting our existing gifts, our existing internal gifts. Common challenges. During Jupiter retrograde, you might notice stalled outer progress. That's because everything's internalized during this one. So plans for expansion could hit a plateau. For example, if you were hoping for rapid growth in a business or a promotion or a big travel adventure late in 2025, you may find that things are moving slower than you had hoped. It's as if the universe is saying, hold on now, refine your vision before you leap forward. This can be frustrating if you're eager for that growth or going on doing what it is that you want to do, but it's a chance to ensure that you're on the right track, and you should take advantage of that. Perhaps something in 2025 made you reconsider your educational path, spiritual path, or life philosophy. It's time to reevaluate that kind of thing. It can be a bit of an existential questioning period. What does success really mean to me? Is this path aligned with my truth, or did I just take it because it seemed lucky at the time? This reflection is healthy. So, you can use it to get through temporary distractedness or disillusionment until you can sort it out. Need for budgeting and moderation is critical in Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter is abundance, and in retrograde, it's kind of opposite of that. So you need to practice moderation. You might find that late 2025 forces you to tighten your budget, which is horrible because that's right around Christmas and all the holidays, or be more mindful of your resources. For instance, perhaps you've overspent a bit earlier in the year, which we do tend to do, and now you need to review your finances. The challenge is to find the contentment with what you have rather than seeking more. And I think that goes for any time of year, not just during Jupiter retrograde. Indulgences like food and spending might backfire now, so try to be prudent. Jupiter retrograde is nurturing Cancer specifically, and so that could highlight emotional overeating or emotional overspending or as coping mechanisms, which um, you then might have problems with. So during Jupiter retrograde, what can you do? Well, a whole bunch of inner abundance rituals would be a good thing to do. This is what it's about. Focus on gratitude and abundance from within. Wonderful practice is a gratitude candle spell. So take a green or royal purple candle, which are Jupiter's colors, and over several nights, burn a little at a time. And each time, speak or write down 3 things that you're grateful for, especially things that you've gained or learned in the past year. This shifts your mindset to one of abundance, even as the outer growth is slowing down. You'll be aware of what you really do have. When the candle is finished, bury the remaining wax or keep it in a jar as a charm for continued blessings. And by the end of Jupiter's retrograde, you'll have a journal or a jar full of gratitude. It's spiritual gold for real. You can also do ancestral magic or house blessings. Being in Cancer, ancestral work is highlighted. Set up an ancestor altar if you don't have one, a small table with photos or heirlooms of your family, a spiritual ancestor. What is the word? I am struggling. I'm sorry. My brain still isn't working. Heirlooms, I guess, was the right word. But put a white candle or a glass of water, things that mean something to you for your ancestor altar. Spend time here in meditation, asking for guidance and listening for intuitive messages. That's the other thing. While all this is going on and it's teaching you to, go inside, look inside your heart, you got to listen to what you find out in there. It's not just, I'm going to go take a peek and say, I'm not for me. Go in and actually listen to what you're being told. You might want to spend time in meditation. You might have vivid dreams during Jupiter retrograde. My husband had a wild dream last night, and we're not in Jupiter retrograde, and it was very realistic, which usually when you have a dream that's that potent and realistic and you remember it when you wake up, it's some kind of message. But anyway, you might have vivid dreams of relatives or even past life flashes during Jupiter retrograde. So keep a dream journal during this time. Perform a home blessing ritual too. Cancer energy asks us to make our home a sanctuary, and I love that. So cleanse your living space. You can do smoke cleansing with cedar or Palo Santo, which Jupiter likes, or do a sound cleansing using bells. And go into each room and say a blessing or affirmation like, this space is filled with prosperity, wisdom, and comfort. Or you could make it rhyme, whatever you want to do. But cleanse your living space and make it a happy place. Practical and spiritual alignment. As Jupiter works its way backwards and then forwards, practice moderation and mindfulness in your everyday life. If you can, delay starting major new ventures in late 2025. If not, expect to work really hard on them. Go over them. Be careful with them. Embrace that slower pace. Maybe institute a weekly wisdom day where you do reflective things like nature walks or journaling or attending a workshop. Since Cancer is all about nourishment, get your diet and self-care in check. Feed your body and soul wholesome things. I love that. On a practical level, check in with mentors and advisors around the end of 2025 when we're in Jupiter retrograde. As a witch, take time to focus on your inner self and perform magic that enhances gratitude and wise growth. By the time Jupiter turns direct, you'll have a clearer vision of your path and the inner riches to carry you forward. Saturn retrograde. This one is July 13th through November 27th of 2025. This retrograde is all about patience, self-discipline, and revisiting long-term goals. Some do's that you might want to do are things like practicing patience, saying no when needed, going back on budget, getting yourself back on budget, taking those walks, in the words, it's that confidence, maybe go walk the track, walk at the gym on a treadmill, take these confident steps, both literally and figuratively, towards self-care and goals. So taking a walk for health is a great thing to do during Saturn retrograde. Some don'ts would be you need to avoid risky shortcuts, making assumptions without facts, and neglecting your rest or flaking out on plans. The shortcut thing is pretty important because we are going to be looking for time savers, and it could be dangerous. Saturn wants you to show up consistently, even in small ways, and not undermine yourself by cutting corners. In a nutshell, Saturn retrograde is your cosmic audit and coaching session all rolled into one. As witches, when we embrace Saturn's lessons, set better boundaries, honor our commitments, release old karmic baggage, we step further into our power and maturity. It helps our magic. By the time Saturn turns direct at the end of November 2025, you'll be ready to move forward with a greater and stronger foundation, clearer conscience, and be wiser. You'll have a wiser game plan. Saturn retrograde teaches us that what we sow, we reap. So use this time to tend your inner garden, prune what's dead, fortify what you want to grow for the long haul. The energetic influence. It is sometimes, Saturn retrograde is often called the Lord of Karma or the taskmaster of the zodiac. It rules discipline, responsibility, commitments, limitations, and life lessons. If Saturn had a slogan, it would be tough love for long-term gain. Yay, who doesn't want that? When Saturn goes retrograde, which it does annually for about 4.5 months every year, we're invited to review our karma, responsibilities, and boundaries. So in 2025, Saturn begins in fiery Aries, and then it slips back into dreamy Pisces around September. So this is significant. Aries energy is about initiative, identity, leadership. Saturn here tests our personal responsibility and patience in forging ahead. Pisces, on the other hand, it's all about spirituality, compassion, and dissolving boundaries. Saturn here tests our faith boundaries, our ability to turn dreams into realities. Saturn is actually in its detriment fall in Aries, meaning it doesn't like to be there. That's not its comfort zone. So the retrograde in Aries might feel like hitting the brakes on new ventures or confrontations. As it re-enters Pisces, though, it might resurrect unfinished business and things that you didn't finish from past retrogrades, which we all know we get slowed down on some of these retrogrades. Karma and past issues could resurface, so don't be surprised if themes or people from your past come back around for resolution. This could mean an old responsibility you thought you'd escaped lands right back on your plate, or a lesson you thought that you had learned actually repeats itself for mastery. Apparently, you didn't learn it so well. For example, if you have a pattern of avoiding commitment, Saturn retrograde might bring an important situation, relationship or job offer or something like that, where you must decide to commit or cut loose, teaching you about accountability. Either way, you've got to make that choice. It's going to make you do it. These are Saturn's karmic tests. They're not meant to punish you, but to ensure that you truly get it this time. You learned your lesson this time. You might find authority and boundary issues in 2025's Saturn retrograde. Saturn is authority, both our inner authority and external authority, like bosses and government and rules and laws. So during Saturn retro, you might butt heads with authority figures or question the rules in your life. If you are the authority, like a parent, and you've got a kid who is pushing back, or a manager maybe, you might have a crisis of confidence and say, oh my God, am I really doing okay as a leader? Or you might need to reassert boundaries that you've allowed to get slack. Aries energy might have initially made authority feel bold and even aggressive, whereas sliding back into Pisces is going to blur that a little bit. It's going to be a little bit softer. So you may oscillate between enforcing and relaxing boundaries, which can be confusing. The challenge is finding that healthy balance, not being too rigid, which is Saturn's old pitfall, or too porous, which is Pisces' influence. So you might want to think about doing some boundary setting spells during Saturn retrograde. If Saturn retrograde has shown you that you lack boundaries or that you're having issues with your boundaries, then it's time to shore them up by both magically and practically. Geez. A simple binding spell, like binding in the sense of protection, not binding in the sense of harming, can help you enforce your boundaries. So craft a witch's ladder. I know Ren did an episode when I was out with my broken leg, or it could have been my head injury. One of the two. It's been something for me. I know she did an episode about witch's ladders. So create a witch's ladder and hang it near your door or workspace. Or you could do saltwater perimeter spell, sprinkle around your home and to reinforce the space's boundaries. Saturn rules salt and Pisces is water, and that's combining them both to help set that boundary. You might mix sea salt in water, maybe with a pinch of iron filings or a nail soaked in it for Saturn's metal, and sprinkle at the threshold and around the perimeter of your home, affirming that only supportive high vibe energies can enter. This is particularly helpful if you felt you felt yourself being psychically overwhelmed. Saturn retro wants you to firm up what's yours and what's not yours. So make that boundary, make that distinction between what is yours and what's not yours. Uranus retrograde, embracing the unexpected within. And this one will be September 6th of 2025 through February 3rd of 2026. And it will be in Gemini and then back into Taurus. So Uranus is the wild card planet. It's the planet of rebellion, innovation, and sudden change, as I explained earlier. It's the bolt of lightning in astrology. It brings shakeups and breakthroughs, epiphanies, that kind of thing. When Uranus goes retrograde, which it does for about 5 months every year, I had no idea, its erratic revolutionary energy turns inward. Externally, the pace of drastic change might slow a bit, but internally, we undergo quite a few revelations. So in late 2025, Uranus will be retrograding from early Gemini into late Taurus, and it actually dips back into Taurus around November 7th. This means that we get a preview of those two energies, Gemini, which is communication, social connections, and ideas, and Taurus, which is stability, material values, and earth. So Uranus in Gemini, even in retrograde, sparks mental breakthroughs and shakes up how we connect and share information. Expect some rethinking of how you communicate and how you use technology, which I think is actually a good thing. That shakeup sometimes lets you see things from other directions. As it slides into Taurus, we revisit changes in our physical world, finances, environment, routines. Since Uranus has been in Taurus for years prior, this retrograde can bring final reflections and personal changes in your values for things that you have worked on before, but now that Uranus is going to leave Taurus for good, you can finalize those things and tighten those up, finish them up. Broadly, Uranus retrograde is a time to process past upheavals and find that internal freedom that comes after that storm. Challenges might be you're going to be restless and you're going to have inner tension. Uranus is electric. When its energy is directed inward, some people feel really antsy. They have that nervous energy and they can't figure out why. They just can't sit still. It's like, when you sit outside when a thunderstorm is coming and you feel that static in the air, the lightning, the ions, the energy that's out there, that's kind of how Uranus feels. Sleep might be erratic. It might be filled with vivid dreams. You might have sudden but internalized insights. Uranus is the awakener, and in retrograde, it can bring about epiphanies that come out of nowhere, which, this is positive. This is a good thing. It's those aha moments. But the challenge is that they can disrupt your previous plans, your worldview, the path that you thought you were on, and it may make you pivot internally. Embrace your inner weirdo during this time. Uranus is all about authenticity and even eccentricity, eclecticness. How about that? So use this retrograde to explore magical techniques or paths that are unconventional for you. Have you ever wanted to try a new form of divination or a craft or something that seems a bit woo-woo or out there? This is the time. Also, tech cleansing and upgrades. Since Uranus has a tech flavor, this is time to do some tech witchcraft, which I have not done actually, or very little of. We did that episode on techno magic, but I never really embraced it after that. I need to think about doing that. But cleanse your electric devices energetically. Pass your phone or laptop through incense smoke, maybe something like frankincense or a citrusy blend, since Uranus is airy, to clear any negative accumulations that are there, and enchant the devices with intention. So place a quartz on your computer and set the intention. It will only be used for inspired positive communications. But don't get bogged down in doom scrolling, which we all do on TikTok. Also, consider a digital detox for a day or two. Uranus retrograde in Gemini suggests stepping back from the noise to hear your own genius inside is a good idea. Magically, you could do a ritual fast from social media, state your intention and disconnect for a period, maybe even bind your phone with a ribbon during this meditation time, and afterwards unwrap it to give yourself a new, fresh perspective. Uranus is associated also with lightning and storms. So if you have any literal storms or high winds during retrograde, you might consider doing some storm magic. Collect rainwater. Uranus in Taurus loves combining sky and earth, and charge it as awakening water to use in spells that need a jolt of inspiration or breaking of stagnation. If it's safe, stand outside in the wind and release your burdens to it. Like let that chaotic air carry away the stuck energy that's on you. I actually love to do this. I do this to cleanse my aura all the time. And I do like the lightning too, so I'm probably not doing it at the safest time, but it feels electric. It's lovely. You can also invoke the element air in ritual more often now, since Uranus and Gemini especially resonate with it. Okay, so moving on to Neptune retrograde, piercing illusions, dream work, and spiritual boundaries. This one is coming up July 4th through December 10th, from Aries and back into Pisces. The energetic influence is that Neptune is the planet of dreams, intuition, spirituality, illusion, and compassion. It's the mystical fog that dissolves boundaries and connects us to the divine, but it can also cloud reality, so beware of that. During Neptune's annual retrograde, which is about 5 months, I have learned so much doing the reading about this. The fog tends to lift a bit internally. So in other words, Neptune retrograde often brings clarity where there was confusion, especially after we adjust to it. It's said that when Neptune dances backwards, illusions are stripped away. We start seeing the truth behind the glamour or denial. And in 2025, Neptune begins at retrograde at 0 degrees Aries it just dipped into Aries for the first time in over a century, which is really cool. Then moves back into late Pisces by October. So the influence is twofold. The very cusp of Aries slash Pisces, symbolizing the shift from collective dream, Pisces, to individual identity, Aries. Neptune retrograde in Aries for that brief period might have given us a sudden gut check. This new dream or spiritual identity that I'm starting, is it real? Is it mine? Is it something I should do? And then Neptune re-enters Pisces, and it's like returning to the depth of the ocean to retrieve something that we left behind, possibly a piece of your spirituality or an unresolved emotional matter. This retrograde strongly highlights boundary themes. Neptune blurs lines, but retrograde encourages establishing healthy boundaries between fantasy and reality, self and others, material and spiritual. If you have been under any illusions, Neptune retrograde tends to pop those bubbles, and it can be a little bit harsh. It can be gentle, but a lot of times it's harsh. For example, if you idealized a person or a situation, you may start seeing red flags that you ignored, and that's hurtful. This person that you idolized, you start seeing, oh gosh, they're a real person, and that can be sad, but it's also eye-opening because they're real people too. If you've been avoiding a truth, like the need to change a habit or accept an ending, circumstance might force you to during this time, during Neptune retrograde. Disillusionment isn't fun. It can feel like a spiritual hangover, but ultimately it is guiding you onto a more authentic path. So remember, seeing the truth, even if uncomfortable, is a blessing of clarity. You could, during this time, do some magic for spiritual clarity. I think that's a great idea. Cast spells that lift confusion and invite divine clarity. A good one is a fog to clarity candle spell. You can take a white or light blue candle and carve a symbol for clarity on it, like maybe an eye so that you can see better, or a sun for, you enlightenment onto it. Dress it in an essential oil like eucalyptus or peppermint, scents that help cut through a haze. Surround it with a ring of salt for purification and grounding. And as it burns, visualize any fog in your mind or life being illuminated or dispelled. You can say something like, by Neptune's tides and Mercury's sight, let what's hidden come to light. Something like that. Let the candle burn slowly down, or even do it over several nights. Pay attention to the revelations or the gradual sense of knowing as what comes to you. You can also use music and art as magic during this time. This is a really good time to do that. Neptune rules music, poetry, and film. The arts are a direct line to the soul under its influence. Make some playlists of songs that resonate with what you're hoping for, healing or seeking, and use it magically. You could do choose a release song, a self-love song. Wow. Vision of the future song, etc., and play them in sequence to see if you can help visualize what those outcomes are. Or literally do music magic by writing a simple chant or a song about what you're manifesting, clarity or peace or whatever. You don't have to be a bard, thank goodness, because I'm not. Even humming in the shower with intent counts. And watch for symbolism in films or books that draw your attention. Neptune might be trying to guide you to a story that contains a message for your path. Interesting. So Pluto retrograde. This actually is kind of one of my favorites. Pluto retrograde, and it is going on right now. No, not right now. It's about to start. It is shadow work, empowerment, and the phoenix rising. It starts May 4th. It's the next one coming. It starts May 4th and goes to October 13th, and it will be in Aquarius. Pluto, even though it was demoted from planethood by the astronomers, is still a big deal astrology-wise. It rules the underworld, transformation, death and rebirth cycles, power dynamics, and our deepest shadow. Pluto moves slowly and spends about half the year in retrograde. So, in some sense, we are pretty much used to it. It's pretty much going on all the time. But we can still feel it in subtle and even profound ways. During Pluto retrograde, the process of transformation and confronting the shadow becomes more internalized. I feel like all the retrogrades are internalizing, except for Mercury, which likes to slam you from outside. But it's like the Lord of the Underworld is saying, okay, time to get within and face those inner demons and do it privately. In 2025, Pluto is in early Aquarius and remains in Aquarius throughout the entire retrograde. So its energy focused on Aquarius themes are things like collective issues, community, technology, freedom, as well as how we individualize within a group setting. On a personal level, Pluto in Aquarius retrograde could have us exploring our shadow in relation to our friends or to our role in society or to our ideals. It teaches us that about our relationship to power, what within groups and our power within ourselves, and also among the masses. Obviously, this retrograde is ideal for shadow work because that basically is what it is. Pluto retrograde in Aquarius asks us to find empowerment from within with the help of trusted allies rather than through external control. It's less power over and more power within. So you might want to do some detox magic, detox and purging magic. Pluto is associated with elimination, both in body and in life. So in retrograde, you might experience or choose a purge. This could be literal, like folks do intensive cleanses or decluttering projects out of the blue. You know, that spring cleaning that might hit you come May 4th. Or it could be life situational, like cutting off toxic friendships, leaving an environment that felt oppressive, etc. But doing so quietly or gradually. It's not one of those gut shockers like some of the other retrogrades are. It can also manifest as an intense need for privacy, you know, and even externalists, what is it? The people that like other people. Jesus. Anyway, even those people are going to feel a need for privacy. Externalist, that is not the right word. Aquarius energy adds an interesting twist, maybe a detox from social media or stepping back from a group activity. Remember, saying no is magic. Reconnect with yourself individually. And as I said, do some shadow work. This is definitely the time. So while retrogrades are often viewed as with trepidation and fear, they can actually be periods of significant personal growth, which may be painful, but not a bad thing. They encourage introspection. They allow individuals to pause and reassess various aspects of their lives. So even though they're rough, with the right perspective and plenty of sage sticks and incense and alcohol, you'll survive and get back to your sassy normal self another day. So remember, sometimes the planets aren't conspiring against us. They're just trying to gently nudge us repeatedly until we fall over and get the picture. But until then, until next time, keep stirring your cauldron and your cocktails. Take care of yourselves. We'll be back, and stay witchy.